When I first learned of this story, I thought, why in a place so serene and rural? Why would killers even prey upon people like this? They have so little to offer with their simple lives. Then it became apparent that sadly, someone who they probably knew and trusted, cruelly and viciously, ended their lives. The odd mystery in this story is this: could it be possible that the authorities had the right person, and they slipped through their grasp? Or was it truly someone else, and they simply haven't been able to solve the crime? I welcome you to this still unsolved murder. Join me for a ride through strange and mysterious here at Odd Mysteries Stories. In the quiet, serene landscape of Llanharry, a small village nestled in Rhondda Cynon Taf, Wales, a story unfolded that has perplexed and haunted the locals for decades. It's a tale that seems more fitting for a dramatic crime novel than the peaceful countryside. The case in question, the Tooze murders. Let me share this mystery with you. It was July 26, 1993, a day like any other in the rural tranquility of Meadow Farm. Harry and Megan Tooze, an elderly couple, were living a calm, retired life on their farm. But that day, something horrific happened. The couple were found shot dead at point-blank range with a shotgun, an execution-style killing that shook the foundations of this small community. The brutality of the act was compounded by the effort to hide their bodies in the cowshed of the farm. But here's a peculiar detail. Their best china was laid out on the table in the farmhouse, almost as if they were expecting a guest. And their lunch, cooked but not eaten, was still on the stove. It paints a picture of a day that started ordinarily but ended in tragedy. Why would a couple, seemingly without enemies and living a quiet life, be the target of such a violent act? The lead detective on the case described it as the most baffling he'd ever investigated. And rightfully so. What could possibly be the motive behind such a brutal and senseless act? Fast forward more than 30 years, and the Tooze murders are still a source of speculation and rumor. The question that haunts me about this story is this: how could an elderly couple enjoying an uneventful retirement be mercilessly killed in their own home, in broad daylight, without any apparent reason? Now, here's where the story really becomes even more mysterious. In 1993, the police thought they had figured it out. Jonathan Jones, the boyfriend of Cheryl, the couple's only daughter, was accused of murdering his prospective in-laws. The alleged motive? Inheritance. But was it as straightforward as that? Or is there more to the story, a piece of the puzzle still missing after all these years? Let me share more and see where your thoughts end up. Here is some background on this journey into the mysterious Tooze murders. Let me describe a picture of the lives led by Harry and Megan Tooze, the elderly couple at the center of this tragic tale. Harry and Megan Tooze lived on a remote farm just north of Llanharry in South Wales. At the time of their untimely deaths, Harry was 64 years old, while Megan was 67. The couple was known in the local community, especially Harry, through his market garden business. Although he had retired 7 years prior to the murders, his presence was still felt in the community. Their only daughter, Cheryl Tooze, had moved away from the farm, marking a significant change in their lives. But here's an interesting detail. Harry, who had retired from his business, still spent his time growing cabbages on the farm. The couple was described as living an uneventful life. But what does uneventful really mean in the context of a rural Welsh farm? Peaceful days, a close-knit community, a slower pace of life perhaps? However, a curious incident occurred about a year before the murders in 1992. Harry's shotgun, which he used for a very practical purpose, to shoot rabbits that threatened his cabbage crops, was mysteriously stolen from the farm. This raises a couple of intriguing questions. Who would have stolen Harry's shotgun? And more importantly, could this theft be somehow connected to the tragic events that unfolded a year later? On the morning of Monday, the 26th of July, 1993, a seemingly normal day began for Harry and Megan Tooze as they left their farm to collect their pensions in Llanharry. Their routine included a stop at the local Tesco supermarket, where Harry unexpectedly ran into one of his sisters. Nothing seemed strange. It was just a regular encounter between siblings. Meanwhile, A neighbor noticed the couple returning to their farm around 11 a.m. This detail would later become a crucial piece in reconstructing the timeline of that fateful day. By 1:30 p.m., 2 gunshots rang out. These sounds, 30 seconds apart, didn't alarm the neighbors. After all, it was common knowledge in the area that Harry often shot rabbits on his property. No one could have imagined that these sounds were the harbingers of a tragedy. Cheryl, the couple's daughter, made a routine phone call to her parents around 90 minutes after the shots were heard. Receiving no answer wasn't immediately concerning, but when her evening call also went unanswered, worry set in. She reached out to her parents' neighbors, prompting them to contact the South Wales police. The discovery made by the responding officers was chilling. Harry and Megan's bodies were found in a cowshed on their farm, buried under hay. Both had been shot at point-blank range with a shotgun, an execution-style killing that raised more questions than answers. Inside the farmhouse, a scene was set that seemed at odds with the brutal act outside. The table had been laid for lunch with the couple's best china. Notably, a teacup reserved for important visitors sat on the table. The usual crockery, never used for everyday purposes, indicated an expectation of a guest. The lunch, cooked but uneaten, sat on the stove. No signs of robbery were evident, but the details get more intriguing. The couple hadn't drunk from their special teacups. Megan's favorite mug was nearby, and Harry's mug was also on the table. This suggested the presence of a visitor at the farm that lunchtime. Moreover, a white shirt of Harry's, laid out on the bed, hinted that he was either expecting someone or preparing for a social engagement. The police began to piece together a narrative. Perhaps the Toozes knew their killer, who might have stopped by unannounced. This could explain why the stove had been turned off and tea prepared. But who was this visitor? And what turned a seemingly ordinary lunchtime into a scene of such horror? The mystery deepened, weaving a complex web of unanswered questions. What could have happened between the return from Tesco and the discovery of the bodies? Who was the visitor that day, and what role did they play in this tragic event? The investigation into the Tooze murders took a significant turn when the theory of murder-suicide was quickly dismissed. This was due to the discovery of drag marks, indicating a body had been moved from near the farmhouse to the cowshed. This finding opened a whole new avenue in the investigation, suggesting a more sinister scenario. Forensic and ballistics analysis provided critical insights. Harry was shot just inside the door of the cowshed. After the shooting, his body was placed in a trough and meticulously covered with hay and tarpaulin sheets, an evident attempt to conceal the crime. Meanwhile, Megan's fate unfolded differently. She had been shot at the other side of the farmhouse, possibly near the kitchen corner. This led investigators to theorize that she might have been trying to escape when she was killed. Her body was then also taken to the cowshed and hidden under a carpet. Both victims were shot once in the back of the head from a distance of 2 to 3 feet. The calculated nature of these actions suggested a deliberate and planned crime. The entrance to the cowshed, crucially out of view of neighbors, became a focal point. Heavy tools stored in the doorway, which would have obstructed entry, appeared to have been moved for access and then replaced, indicating a methodical approach by the perpetrator. The ammunition used raised further questions. The shots were believed to be No. 7 shotgun ammunition, a type Harry never used. Moreover, no cartridges were found at the scene. Interestingly, the shotgun stolen from Harry a year earlier was not linked to the murders, deepening the mystery. Initially, the precision of the killings led to speculation that this could have been a professional hit. However, ballistics experts suggested that determination alone might have been sufficient for carrying out the murders. The forensic evidence indicated that the killer would have been covered in blood and tissue, yet no blood was found elsewhere on the farm. Another significant detail emerged from the examination of Harry's body. Hypostasis, the pooling of blood after death, indicated he had been moved 3 to 4 hours post-mortem. In contrast, Megan's body showed much less hypostasis, suggesting she may have been killed after Harry. These details painted a picture of a crime that was both brutal and calculated. The killer had not only committed a double murder, but had also taken meticulous steps to conceal it. The lack of blood elsewhere the careful return of tools to their place, and the timing suggested by the state of the bodies, all these elements contributed to a perplexing and chilling mystery. Who could have executed such a crime, and what was their motive? As the investigation into the Tooze murders progressed, one key element remained elusive: the murder weapon. Despite extensive searches, the shotgun used in the killings was never found. This absence became a significant hurdle in the investigation. Initially, the investigative team considered the possibility that the Toozes might have stumbled upon an intruder. This theory, however, started to crumble as there was no evidence of a break-in. Moreover, nothing in the house had been stolen, which further complicated the narrative. Valuable items, including jewelry and money, were left untouched. Intriguingly, Harry had £75 on him, which was also left behind by the perpetrator. In an effort to gather more information and possibly identify a suspect, a reconstruction of the crime was featured on the BBC television program called Crime Watch on 28 September 1993, 2 months after the murders. This episode appealed for the unknown visitor who was seen at the farmhouse on the day of the murders to come forward. The program highlighted that very few people visited the Toozes at their remote farmhouse, making this visitor's identity even more crucial. The appeal also extended to any passers-by, especially considering the proximity of the key M4 motorway to Llanharry. Furthermore, the public was asked to provide any information they might have regarding the shotgun stolen from Harry a year before the murders. The lead detective on the case publicly admitted the complexities and challenges they faced. Despite extensive inquiries, no clear motive for the killings had emerged. The detective described the case as the most baffling he had ever worked on. This statement underscored the perplexing nature of the crime and the difficulties faced by the police in solving it. The lack of a clear motive, the absence of the murder weapon, and the mysterious visitor who never came forward created a puzzle that seemed increasingly difficult to solve. The Tooze murders, with each passing day, became not just a local mystery, but a case that captured the attention of the nation, leaving everyone wondering who killed Harry and Megan Tooze and why. As the investigation into the Tooze murders continued, attention began to shift towards Cheryl Tooze, the couple's daughter, and her boyfriend, Jonathan Jones. Cheryl lived with Jones in Orpington, Kent, but they frequently visited the Toozes' farm in Llanharry. This connection brought Jones into the spotlight of the investigation. Megan Tooze was religious, and both she and Harry held strong values. Cheryl's decision to live with Jones out of wedlock was initially kept a secret from her parents due to these values. When the Toozes eventually learned about Cheryl's living arrangements, they were deeply upset but chose not to share this information with their friends. Jones, originally from Wales, was struggling professionally. He had been trying to succeed as a recruitment consultant without much success and had recently decided to start his own marketing business despite having only £100 in his bank account. At the time of the murders, Cheryl and Jones were experiencing financial difficulties, falling behind on their house repayments and facing the loss of their flat. Jones had kept this situation hidden from Cheryl. These financial troubles drew the attention of the police. Harry and Meghan had a life insurance policy worth £150,000, which investigators considered a possible motive for Jones to commit the murders. Adding to the suspicion was the information that, a few days before the murders, the Toozes had visited a solicitor regarding a contested will. Jones was aware that Cheryl was the sole beneficiary of her parents' estate. Witness accounts further complicated matters. Several people reported seeing a man near the Tooze farm in late June, dressed in a beige trench coat and dark sunglasses, carrying a hold-all bag and hiding his face from motorists. One witness later identified this man as Jones. He confirmed being in the area, claiming he was helping Harry with baling hay after hitchhiking to Pontypridd. Although Jones owned a trench coat matching the description and was seen wearing it by friends, both he and Cheryl denied that he owned such a coat. The investigation took another turn when police began to suspect that Jones might have stolen Harry's shotgun prior to the murders. This suspicion was fueled by the circumstantial evidence surrounding Jones' financial situation, the life insurance policy, and the contested will, combined with the witness sightings and Jones' own admission of being in the area. The case against Jones was being built, rooted in a mix of financial motive, opportunity, and circumstantial evidence. However, questions remained. Was Jones really capable of such a brutal act? Could the financial pressure have driven him to murder? The investigation into the Tooze murders took a significant turn with the discovery of Jonathan Jones's fingerprint on a teacup found at the farmhouse. This was a crucial piece of evidence, especially given that both Jones and Cheryl had denied that he ever used it. This suggested that Jones might have been the mysterious visitor at the Tooze's farm on the day of the murders. The use of the good china, reserved for special guests, aligned with the idea that Jones, being a close associate of the Toozes, could have prompted such hospitality. Interestingly, apart from Harry and Meghan's own fingerprints, only Jones's was found on the items at the scene. Jones's alibi for the day of the murders was that he had taken the day off to look for new office premises for his marketing business in Orpington, involving meetings with estate agents. However, police inquiries in Orpington failed to corroborate this alibi. No witnesses could confirm his presence, and no estate agents recalled seeing or speaking to him that day. It was also established that the return trip from Orpington to Llanharry and back was feasible within 7 hours by car or train, giving Jones enough time to commit the murders. Further scrutiny of Jones's alibi revealed inconsistencies. He claimed to have spoken with a lift engineer at his flat around 1:30 p.m. on the day of the murders. However, the lift engineer and 2 others working that day did not recall such a conversation, reporting they were out for lunch at that time. Additionally, Jones had failed to return a rented videotape, which was due on the same day, along the route he claimed to have walked. The time frame of the murders, suggested by experts to be between 1:30 and 3 p.m., coincided precisely with the time Jones claimed he was at home. Cheryl later admitted to the police that Jones was not home when she returned from work that evening and could not confirm if he had been in the flat that day. When Cheryl became concerned about her parents not answering the phone, she asked Jones to drive the 200 miles to Llanharry to check on them, as she had work the following morning. Jones set off between 10 and 11 p.m. He called Cheryl around 1 a.m., still 66 miles short of the farm. He didn't arrive until 3 a.m., blaming the weather for the delay. At that time, he was informed by officers about the discovery of the bodies. Police noted that his reaction to the news was strange and became suspicious of the unusually long duration of his journey, suspecting that he may have used the time to dispose of clothing and the murder weapon. Both Jonathan and Cheryl were questioned by the police, who felt they were withholding or fabricating information. Cheryl, in particular, was described as dodging almost every question. Based on these developments, 2 months after the murders, the decision was made to arrest and charge Jonathan Jones. The mounting evidence against Jones, along with the inconsistencies in his and Cheryl's statements, painted a troubling picture. The discovery of his fingerprint on the teacup, the flawed alibi, and his peculiar behavior following the discovery of the bodies were pivotal in turning the focus of the investigation towards him. In 1995, 2 years after the tragic Tooze murders, Jonathan Jones stood trial, charged with the double homicide of Harry and Megan Tooze. The police had formulated a theory of the events leading to the murders, which they presented during the trial. According to this theory, Jones had traveled by train from Orpington to Pontypridd on the morning of the murders. The police speculated that his unexpected arrival at the Tooze farm during lunchtime led Harry and Meghan to bring out their good china and make tea, possibly under the impression that Jones was there to formally ask for their daughter's hand in marriage. This scenario was seen as the trigger for the events that followed. After the alleged murders, the police believed that Jones returned to Orpington by train, aligning with his claim of arriving back at the flat at 7:30 p.m. The prosecution painted Jones as a motivated and greedy individual, driven by the desire to secure his and Cheryl's financial future through the life insurance policy and inheritance money. The case against Jones was largely circumstantial, lacking direct evidence linking him to the crime scene. Despite this, the portrayal of Jones as a son-in-law with a financial motive appeared to resonate with the jury. The consensus outside the courtroom was that the evidence presented might not be sufficient for a conviction. However, the jury, after only 2 hours of deliberations, found Jones guilty of the murders. This verdict came as a surprise to many who had followed the case, given the reliance on circumstantial evidence and the lack of direct proof. The trial's outcome raised questions about the strength of the evidence and the jury's interpretation of it. The conviction of Jones marked a significant moment in the Tooze murders case, a story that had captivated public attention with its twists and turns. It brought a form of closure to the case, but also left lingering doubts and debates about the justice system and the challenges of solving complex criminal cases based on circumstantial evidence. The verdict in Jonathan Jones's trial for the Tooze murders had a profound impact on various relationships and perceptions. Cheryl Tooze, the daughter of the victims, was particularly affected. Distraught by the guilty verdict against her boyfriend, she offered a £25,000 reward for information that could prove Jones's innocence and support his alibi. This money was part of the £150,000 she inherited following her parents' murder. Cheryl's unwavering support for Jones caused a rift within her family as her relatives struggled to understand her stance, especially given the conviction. Megan Tooze's sister, Cheryl's aunt, expressed her frustration and disbelief at Cheryl's actions. She believed that Cheryl was blinded by her love for Jones, unable to see the truth that the family and the jury had accepted. Her comment, "Why can't she let her parents rest in peace?" reflected a sentiment of dismay and a desire for closure. The jury's decision was also scrutinized. Some members of the jury felt the need to defend their verdict amidst claims that they had made a mistake. Their defense highlighted that they were educated and capable of making an informed decision. One juror, emphasizing their credibility, mentioned the presence of a schoolteacher among them, reiterating their belief in Jones's guilt. Following his conviction, Jones filed an appeal on several grounds, including technical issues related to the judge's instructions to the jury. His legal team continued efforts to corroborate his alibi about speaking to lift engineers at his flat on the day of the murders, but these individuals maintained that no such interaction occurred. Despite these efforts, no one came forward to confirm Jones's alibi, leaving a gap in his defense. The Court of Appeal ultimately allowed Jones's appeal on legal grounds. While they considered ordering a retrial, they deemed it inappropriate. Consequently, Jones was released. This decision was met with mixed reaction. Outside the court, Cheryl and Jones shared a long kiss for the media, with Cheryl proclaiming the release as a victory for love and truth. The couple later married. Despite his release, Jones did not receive compensation for his time in prison, as there was no conclusive evidence proving his innocence. The case remains shrouded in ambiguity, with no definitive answer to what happened on the day of the Tooze murder. This lack of clarity leaves the case open to interpretation and debate, with the truth of that fateful day still elusive. The Tooze murders, a case that had gripped Wales and beyond, continued to unfold with new developments years after the initial trial and conviction of Jonathan Jones, which was later overturned. In the year 2002, reviews of the case were conducted. The results of these reviews, however, have been kept confidential to avoid influencing any potential future trial or retrial. A significant development occurred on the 10th anniversary of the murders in 2003. The police disclosed that they had received an anonymous letter in November 2002. The contents of this letter were never made public, but the police believed it to be genuine and appealed for the writer to come forward. They speculated that the author was someone local, but couldn't be sure if it was a man or a woman. Trefor Evans, the lead detective, expressed his belief that the letter had not been sent by the killer. That same year, the case saw another intriguing development. Police discovered shotgun cartridges in a flooded iron ore mine shaft on land near the Tooze farm. The cartridges were found in a black hold-all bag with distinct features, red stitching, a zip, and inscribed Team Dewa written in gold lettering. This discovery aligned with an anonymous tip-off received during the original investigation about items being dumped in a nearby mine shaft, a lead that couldn't be pursued at the time due to a lack of permission for a search. Additionally, barrels of a shotgun were found in a quarry half a mile from the farm. These barrels matched the type used in the Tooze murders, a double-barreled 12-bore gun. Experts concluded that they had been dismantled by someone with knowledge of firearms. The investigation was reopened, focusing on witness accounts of cars seen in the area at the time of the murders and forensic tests on the newly discovered items. In 2006, new witnesses came forward regarding the cars, but by 2008, South Wales police announced that all lines of inquiry had been exhausted and the investigation was scaled down. It was also stated that the gun-related items found in recent years were no longer believed to be related to the Tooze murders. On the 30th anniversary of the murders, 26 July 2023, South Wales Police launched a forensic review of the case. This decision underscored the enduring mystery of the Tooze murders and the continued efforts to find closure in a case that had long baffled the police, the public, and everyone involved. Despite the passage of time, the case remained open, a testament to the persistence of law enforcement and the hope that new technologies and information might finally unveil the truth behind this tragic and perplexing crime. The Tooze murders case took yet another intriguing turn following the 2011 convictions of John Cooper, a serial killer and burglar, for the double shotgun murders of couples in Pembrokeshire in the 1980s. Cooper's convictions prompted detectives to explore possible connections between his crimes and the Tooze murders. Several similarities between Cooper's known murders and the Tooze case were noted. Both sets of victims were shot at close range, and attempts were made to hide their bodies. Cooper was known to consistently use a shotgun in his crimes. Furthermore, double shotgun murders are relatively rare nationally, and Cooper had already been convicted of 2 such incidents. Considering these similarities, the Tooze case was re-examined by the police in 2011, the same year Cooper was convicted. However, this investigation did not uncover any evidence conclusively linking Cooper to the Tooze murders. There were several factors that did not align with the possibility of Cooper being involved in the Tooze case. Firstly, Harry and Megan Tooze would not have known John Cooper, which did not explain the peculiar detail of the best china being laid out as if the couple were expecting a guest. Secondly, Cooper was known to steal from his victims, but nothing had been stolen from the Tooze farm. Moreover, Cooper was not familiar with the Llanharry area, though he had once attended a hospital appointment in nearby Bridgend that year. His modus operandi typically involved targeting areas he knew well, with all his crimes committed in or around the area he lived in Pembrokeshire. Additionally, Cooper always shot his victims face on, which was unlike the Tooze murders where the victims were shot in the back of the head. Jonathan Jones's lawyer weighed in on these developments, insisting that Cooper was a more plausible suspect than Jones. During my research on this story, I shared that in July of 2023, the South Wales Police launched a forensic review of this case. I have been monitoring as much updated online information as is available, and I couldn't find any additional updates. If you or someone you know has reputable updated information, would you please share that with me so I could update this video? However, as of today, the case remains a very mysterious, unsolved murder mystery. Lastly, for those of you who clicked on the thumbnail thinking it was about these two, you might have been disappointed, but I'm guessing if you stayed to the end of this video, you saw an odd and more mysterious story of a simpler and sweet couple, in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying the videos on my channel. My name is Vince, and if possible, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting new videos each Monday and Friday. Clicking the little bell will send you a notification when a new video is posted. In the meantime, I invite you to watch one of my other videos on your screen. Thank you.